And you know, because they remember seeing her at her Jubilee in June, so there's been that. But I did a big piece about the new king in the paper yesterday. Sorry, it's all rolls into one at the moment.
We don't know what day it is.
But yesterday about the kind of projection of Charles as grandfather of the nation. I think what's been really amazing is the warmth of the welcome. Now, of course, there will be some bounce effect because obviously people are mourning his mother. But I can tell you now from being down at that palace on Friday that there was genuine goodwill to this man. And actually, I don't think he's put a foot wrong the last few days.
Are you serious?
You know, he's been out there meeting and greeting people as much as he can. I think his address on Friday was just pitch perfect. You know, and you got a sense of his real deep mourning for his mother, as well as the kind of genuine passion that he actually wants to do her proud.
Okay.
And wants to continue this sense of duty that she's got and become a kind of grandfather to the nation. So I think it's been a remarkable few days. It's been a real privilege actually to have a ringside seat on that, I have to say.
It is, you know, it's being part of history.
It is.
It's incredible. Richard, we've also seen some very moving pictures from Scotland over the last 24 hours, haven't we?
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Yes, we have. I mean, it's really been quite a spectacle to see the people queuing up, to see the Queen's coffin lying at rest in St Giles's Cathedral.
That was easy.
And, you know, all ages. You've seen people pretty infirm, actually. You've seen people in wheelchairs, but queuing up for hours and coming from all over Scotland to do that and taking that opportunity before the coffin comes to London and then will lie in state. And I think I'm sure the people of Scotland have been delighted to have had that opportunity first, and I think it has been very symbolic.
I think it's what she would have wanted as well, actually, in truth. Scotland has such a special place in her heart, and I saw on the BBC this morning actually people interviewed that had travelled from London and Manchester.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
To go to Scotland because they thought it would be their best chance of being able to pay their respects in a kind of with a slightly lesser crowd than they will be actually in the capital. And I think it's meant a lot to the family as well, that they felt that they could actually kind of grieve in one of the places that she loved best.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that photograph, you know, the images of of King Charles.
We must say, we know we've had some of you comment on us slipping that up. It might take us a few days, but we will.
It does take a while.
It does take a while. It's been a long 70 years.
Yeah.
So, you know,
But the images of the King standing, keeping vigil in front of the coffin at St Giles's Cathedral is really poignant, I think.
That doesn't make sense.
Oh, I mean, I think I said it was actually a beautiful picture, but a really sad one as well. You know, seeing the kind of grief etched on his face, Princess Anne's face.
Yes.
Noticeably, I think that the angle from which the photograph was taken, you could see Anne, the King, and to a lesser extent the Earl of Wessex, but the Duke of York seemed to be tucked slightly around the back. I don't know whether that was deliberate or not. But
it's funny you raised the Duke of York, because I want to turn to a story you've written in today's paper about who gets to wear what at the Queen's funeral.
You better answer the fucking question.
Yeah, it's been a big issue, and there's a reason why it's a big issue, because for the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral last year, we had a really good exclusive in the Mail that behind the scenes, Andrew really kicked up a fuss about him wanting to wear his Vice Admiral's uniform.
Stupid, I'm not going to let you get the chance.
He was actually made an honorary Vice Admiral by his mother for his 55th birthday, the kind of gifts that only the royal family can give each other. And he should have been promoted to Admiral for his 60th, but because of the Epstein scandal, that was put on hold. He still is entitled to wear this uniform.
The Admiral uniform?
Vice Admiral's uniform,
okay.
yeah. And he kicked up a stink. And as a result, actually a result of our story coming out, there were huge changes, and the Queen personally ruled that everyone had to wear morning dress.
That's
nobody
right,
could
yes.
wear uniform.
Yeah.
So what's happened now is that obviously King Charles III has not wanted that to dominate the first few days of mourning their mother, and he's acted really decisively and has ruled that basically only working members of the royal family can wear uniform.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
With one exception, that Andrew will be allowed to wear his Vice Admiral's uniform when they perform a similar vigil to we were discussing before at Westminster before the state funeral. And I've been told that was a personal decision by him. It's going to be a last chance for a son to mourn his mother, and that he feels he should be able to do it. And of course it would look a bit incongruous that every other member of the royal family is in uniform except Andrew.
Supposed tell-all book goes ahead, and I think that's going to be the real line in the sand, whether or not there's a proper reconciliation, isn't it?
Everything hinges on that. I mean, the big issue around the whole relationship between Harry and the royals, but particularly between Harry and his brother, is this matter of trust.
Boy.
Can they trust him? Do they trust him anymore? I think trust has been in very short supply because of what's happened over the last 2 years, and the book could absolutely blow up whatever green shoots are pushing through.
scale, I'd say.
Really, nigga?
Just more exciting than Dallas.
I
for all
do
of this
remember
drama.
once Charles made a very pertinent observation about his brother. He said the trouble with Andrew is that he wants to be me.
You serious?
And that sort of goes to the heart of it. Andrew, don't forget, was for many years the heir in line after Charles. And then when Charles got married and had children, and he got pushed further and further down the line of succession.
Same with Harry. Harry's actually said, hasn't he? The problem is, now that my brother's got children, I've been pushed down. He's actually sort of mentioned that himself.
Oh, it must be so hard to be the spare. Richard, Eden, I don't suspect you have an optimistic view of the hopes for reconciliation.
You better answer the fucking question.
I think William's gesture was magnanimous and it was very kind, but I'm afraid I fear it was a mistake. Because when they've made kind gestures before towards Harry and Meghan, they've been thrown back in their face.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
I mean, look at how Duchess of Cambridge, as she then was, went round after there'd been a row over these flower girls at the wedding with Meghan. She took some flowers, and then that was held against her. That was publicly used against her in the Oprah interview.
Oh, Lord. Again.
You know, oh, she apologised to me and all that sort of thing. So it backfires. You know, we've seen the Queen and Prince Charles in his address sort of downgrading Harry and Meghan, you know, they're just people overseas kind of thing. But what we saw with William's gesture is it's elevated them, it's made them central again now, you know, next to William and Catherine.
Wow.
And it's wonderful for them. I'm sure they'll be able to exploit it a lot in the future. But I do fear it's a mistake.
That doesn't make sense.
Cole, exploiting it for the future. What do you think, Charlotte? Do you think that they will reconcile?
Do I think they'll reconcile? Not really, to be honest. I want to be an optimist, but I thought it was so tense, their get-together. They couldn't bring themselves to do a smile in each other's direction or anything.
Wait for it. Here it comes. Almost there.
And there's always been this thing about William and Harry. They've been united in the fact that they have a unique situation where it's really hard to trust people around them. William's curated a very small group of people he trusts, and one of them was Harry, and now he can't trust Harry. And the irony is, Harry's such a distrusting person and can't bear details about his private life coming out, and yet here he is releasing this book. So I think until that book gets you know, put in the bin, I don't think there'll be a reconciliation.
OK, so if the book does go ahead, what are we thinking? Christmas release?
Oh, before then. I mean,
Right.
it's next month or November. The manuscript is with the publishers, from what I understand, and I don't think, as Richard suggests, I'm not even sure that Prince Harry has the power to stop it.
Quite. The publishers will have their say, won't they?
Here's a gallery of the late Queen in her role as grandmother and great-grandmother.
Heard from you the day following the Queen's passing. I imagine it's been non-stop for you since then?
It has, and actually I filmed that just before I was literally running down to Buckingham Palace to be with the new King and Queen, which still takes a little while getting used to.
Yes.
When they arrived back at Buckingham Palace, which was just, it was like spine tingling, because it was seeing history
Women.
unfold and hearing people scream, "God bless the King," you know, God bless the new King, you're a good man, Charles. It was incredible scenes there.
And so what have you made of this outpouring of emotion? Because we've seen there's also a lot of grief out there as well, but a lot of sort of, you know, goodwill and love for the new King.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think we did expect a huge outpouring of grief for the Queen. You know, I'm sure you've discussed on the programme already, you know, she's the only monarch that most of us have ever known in our lives, and she's been a particularly exceptional one as well.
Nice.
And I think actually what's been sweet about that is the way that it's transcended generations.
Richard Kay, I'm going to start with you. Charles, back in action today. Services in Westminster this morning, and then he's off to Scotland this afternoon. Now, I know we've been saying for a long time he's been preparing for this role for his life, but this is really hitting the ground running.
It's a man in a hurry.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
I mean, is it all partly because he knows his is going to be a short reign, so let's get all the protocol, everything that needs to be done out as fast as possible? Partly
Oosh,
it's that.
that's cold.
No, it's partly that.
Yeah.
But it's also because he has been preparing for this role for so many years. And one of the things we learned about today was that he'd been preparing for his audiences with the Prime Minister, with previous Prime Ministers over the years.
Are you sure about that?
So, yeah, he's a man who's well prepared and ready for the task ahead.
It's a horrible thing, isn't it? Because obviously he's been grieving the death of his mother, but he must also be a bit excited about this. It's such a mixed bag of emotions.
It is a very strange sensation. On the one hand, we're all grieving the loss of Her Majesty the Queen, the whole nation and indeed the Commonwealth, but also there's an excitement about the fact that we've now got a king on the throne, and what is it all going to mean, and how the changes that are coming down the line.
I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot this week. Richard Eden, the emphasis on Scotland as the start of the morning procession, that's significant, isn't it?
It really does seem appropriate. Actually, I met someone for lunch last week before we even knew that the Queen was ill, and he told me that the Queen wanted to die in Scotland. That's what she'd almost hoped that would happen. And she hoped that it would help sort of cement the union. You know, we knew about her intervention in the Scottish independence referendum. She felt very strongly about the union, and she felt that by being there and then her body laying in state at St Giles Cathedral, Edinburgh, it will all help act as a bond, really, that bonds us together in the United Kingdom.
It's fascinating. Charlotte, Princess Anne, not somebody who gets a lot of airtime on Palace Confidential, but she's certainly proven to have a significant role in all of this, hasn't she?
She should get more airtime. I think it sounds like the Queen actually asked for her to be the one that went down on the 6-hour trip from Balmoral to Edinburgh, and so she did that yesterday, and she's also going to go on the plane with the Queen's body back to London. Wow. So certainly she was a really key part of the Queen's life. They were immensely close. They both shared a love of horses. And I think Anne was by her side when the final moment came, and was actually staying in Balmoral at the time. And she's fab. I mean, she does so many commitments as well. She does so many meet and greets, and that's why she was in Scotland at the time of the death.
Are you serious?
And I think it's fascinating as well. My image of Princess Anne is always one of real stoicism. And those pictures today, where you could just see the grief etched on her face, it's fascinating.
She cuts it so deeply, which is such a lovely thing, and it was nice that Sophie comforted her. It's nice when you see that somebody that stoic actually showed a little chink of emotion. It shows that she really must be feeling very deeply the loss.
Really, nigga?
Now, I've been trying to politely wait an amount of time to discuss this, but the elephant in the room is this great surprise for royal watchers was on Saturday when the Cambridges and the Sussexes, the previous Fab Four, appeared together to greet well-wishers, to sort of and see the tributes to the Queen.
Yes.
Richard Kay, let's turn to the piece that you have written today in today's paper. It's fascinating. You write that if it was William who initiated this and not Charles, as was previously reported.
No, it was definitely not Charles. It was William's idea.
Are you sure about that?
Charles is a man who's got so much on his plate at this time, and the last thing he needs is a confrontation with his younger son yet again. But it was William's idea, and William reached out to Harry. Whether it was provoked by any other intelligence, we simply don't know. But the fact is, it was a generous and rather spontaneous gesture. And could this be the start of something big? Could this be the start of, a reconciliation? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, they weren't overtly friendly with one another, but then the occasion hardly demanded it.
Come on now, dawg.
I think Harry looked much more nervous than his brother at times, but the fact is the four of them were together side by side for a moment, and the crowd were delighted.
Oh my God! Wow!
What on earth do you think would have been in that text exchange?
I think it was fairly brief. I think they'd probably been speaking, but it was on the lines of "let's do it," from what I hear, and simply sending details of the times and that they were going to swing by and get down there together.
Of course, we're waiting now with bated breath to see if Harry's supposed tell-all book goes ahead, and I think that's going to be the real line in the sand, whether or not there's a proper reconciliation, isn't it?
Everything hinges on that. I mean, the big issue around the whole relationship between Harry and the royals, but particularly between Harry and his brother, is this matter of trust.
Boy.
Can they trust him? do they trust him anymore? I think trust has been in very short supply because of what's happened over the last 2 years, and the book could absolutely blow up whatever green shoots are pushing through if he goes ahead with it. The difficulty for Harry is, I mean...